Have you ever looked back at a moment in your life and whispered to yourself, if only I had known better? Not about something dramatic or tragic, but something small, something ordinary, something that quietly chipped away at your happiness, your health, or your peace. Most people don't even notice these moments until years, sometimes decades, have passed. And yet, that's how it happens. Most of the damage we carry in life wasn't caused by one big mistake. It was caused by the small ones, the ones we make without even realizing it. And unfortunately, nearly 97% of older adults continue to repeat those same mistakes, again and again, even in their later years. That's not to place blame. No, that's to shine a light, because once you see a pattern, you can break it. Once you become aware of a trap, you can avoid falling into it again. The first mistake? It's heartbreaking. It's heavy. And it hides behind something many people mistake for strength. It's silence. You see, somewhere along the road of growing older, many people learn to keep things to themselves. They stop sharing their real feelings. They stop expressing when they're hurt. They stop asking for help. They swallow their emotions, thinking it's more respectful or more mature. But over time, those unspoken feelings don't disappear. They grow heavier. They become sadness, then bitterness, then isolation. And this happens so quietly, you don't even realize it. You say, "I'm fine," even when you're falling apart inside. You smile in front of others, even when you feel invisible. You try not to bother your children, your neighbors, your friends, because you don't want to be a burden. But here's what nobody told you. Your voice matters. Your pain, your joy, your memories, they are not burdens. They are the threads of a full, valuable life. When you go silent, people don't hear the truth. They hear what they assume is the truth. They assume you're doing okay. They assume you don't need them. They assume you want to be alone. And the saddest part? They stop asking. Maria, a beautiful 76-year-old woman I once met, had lived a life full of service. She raised 4 children, cared for her parents, stood beside her husband for 50 years. She cooked, cleaned, helped, loved, sacrificed. But after her husband died and her children moved away, something shifted. She grew quiet. Her smile faded a little. She still said the same things. "I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm just tired." But inside, she was aching for connection, not because she was weak, but because she was human. Her granddaughter once discovered a journal Maria had kept. It was full of entries, handwritten pages of grief, longing, and wisdom. One page read, "I wish someone would ask me how I really feel." That single line shattered her granddaughter's heart. "If I had known," she said, "I would have held her hand more. I would have called her every day. I would have asked more questions, listened more deeply. But it was too late." The lesson? Please, don't wait to be heard after you're gone. Speak your heart now, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if you think no one will care. Because the people who truly love you, they want to hear your truth. They just don't know how much you're holding in. And now, let's talk about something else that most older adults neglect. Not because they're careless, but because they've been quietly taught to ignore it. Their body. It starts innocently enough. You feel a little more tired. Your knees ache. Your sleep becomes lighter. You don't bounce back like you used to, so you slow down. You tell yourself, that's just part of getting older. And you stop moving. You eat less. You accept the pain. You ignore the symptoms. You think this is just what life after 60 is supposed to look like, but it's not. Yes, aging brings changes. But that doesn't mean your body has stopped listening to you. In fact, your body is still trying to protect you even now. Even in your 70s, 80s, or beyond. The small choices you make each day, they matter. You don't need to run a marathon. You don't need to go to a gym. But you do need to stretch your legs. You do need to feed your muscles. You do need to take those tiny steps that tell your body, I still care about you. Ignoring your health doesn't make you strong. It simply makes life harder, and it's not just about avoiding disease. It's about quality. It's about being able to walk through your home without pain, to climb stairs without fear, to dance even a little when your favorite song comes on, to play with your grandchild or pick up a book without aching joints. That's freedom. That's independence. That's dignity. You deserve that. You are not just old. You are still capable of healing, of gaining strength, of reclaiming parts of yourself you thought were gone. And maybe, just maybe, the most important thing you can do for your body is believe it's still worth taking care of. Because when you believe that, everything starts to change. Asterisk. There's something that happens to many older adults, not suddenly, but slowly, over years. You stop putting yourself first. It starts with love. It always does. You pour everything into your children, your spouse, your parents. You become the backbone of your family. You show up every day, giving, helping, supporting, often without being asked. And you do it because it feels right, because that's who you are. But somewhere along the way, you begin to disappear. You wake up one morning and realize you've spent decades showing up for everyone else, but forgotten how to show up for yourself. You forget what makes you laugh. You forget what you enjoy. You forget the dreams you had when you were young, the little joys that used to make your heart feel light. And you tell yourself, that's just what being a good parent looks like. That's what being a strong partner means. This is what I'm supposed to do at my age. But here's a question no one asks you enough. What do you want now? Not 20 years ago. Not when the children were small. Not when your job defined. You right now. Today. In this chapter of your life, what brings you joy? Because you still deserve to feel it. This is the quiet mistake most people never notice. They live their entire lives devoted to others and reach the final chapters with one painful realization. They never truly knew themselves, not because they were selfish, but because they never felt allowed to pause and ask, what do I need? This is not about abandoning the people you love. It's about returning to the person you once were, the one who used to sing in the kitchen for no reason, the one who wrote poems in a diary, the one who dreamed of traveling or baking or planting. A garden. You are not done just because you've lived many years. There is still so much of you left to uncover. And now, let's talk about something else no one wants to admit, but far too many live through. It's the quiet ache of being alone, not just physically, but emotionally. For many older adults, loneliness becomes an everyday companion, but it doesn't arrive all at once. No, it slips in gradually. First, your children get busy. Then your circle of friends shrinks. You stop driving at night. People stop calling as often. You find yourself sitting in silence more and more, wondering if anyone even notices you're still here. You tell yourself it's okay, that you've adjusted, that you enjoy the peace, but deep down, something in you misses the noise, the laughter, the messy family dinners, the spontaneous visits, the feeling of being included, of being seen, of being wanted. And here's the painful truth. Loneliness is not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Studies show that isolation in older adults increases the risk of depression, memory loss, and even early death. It can be as harmful as smoking or a poor diet. But unlike smoking, there are no warning labels for loneliness. And because it's so quiet, no one around you may even realize it's happening. But you do. You feel it when the house is too quiet, when the phone hasn't rung in days, when the holidays come and go with only silence as company. Please listen closely now. You were not meant to fade away. You were not put here to live your final years in silence or solitude. The human heart still craves connection, no matter how old it is. It still needs warmth, conversation, purpose, and love. And yes, the world has changed. Yes, people are busier. Yes, technology sometimes feels like a wall instead of a bridge. But connection is still possible. It just may look different than before. It may look like joining a walking group at your local park, or volunteering at the library once a week, or calling an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, or writing letters to your grandchildren, or smiling at a stranger at the grocery store. Even one human interaction a day can soften the edges of loneliness. Even one conversation can remind you that your life still has ripples in the world. And sometimes, reaching out first is the bravest thing you can do. I know it's not easy, but neither is suffering in silence. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not too old to make new connections, to be loved, to be understood, to be known. It takes courage to step out of the shadows of isolation. But every step toward another soul brings you closer to life again. You are still part of this world. And this world is not done with you. There's a belief that creeps in as the years go by. It doesn't shout. It doesn't break down the door. It just quietly settles in, like dust on a WINDOWSILL. And it whispers something that sounds harmless at first, but becomes more dangerous. The longer it stays. It says, it's too late now. Too late to fix things. Too late to chase dreams. Too late to learn something new. Too late to heal. Too late to be happy. And slowly, you begin to accept that lie. You begin to sit a little longer. You talk a little less. You let the days pass without reaching for anything. And when someone asks, what do you want from life now? You don't have an answer, because you've stopped believing you're still allowed to want anything at all. But here's what I want to tell you, not with facts or science or studies, but with heart. It is not too late. Not if you woke up this morning. Not if there's breath in your chest and light in your eyes. Not if there are still songs that stir something inside you. Not if there are places you haven't seen, people you haven't met, parts of yourself you haven't yet lived. You are not a finished story. You are a soul in progress. And even in your final chapters, new paragraphs can still be written. Let me tell you about Alma. Alma was 87 when she enrolled in her first ever class, a poetry workshop at a community center. She sat among people half her age. She didn't know how to use a computer. She was afraid she wouldn't be taken seriously, but she went anyway. And on the last day of class, she read her poem aloud. It was about growing up barefoot on a dusty road, and losing her brother in the war, and how she still makes coffee every morning for a husband who's been gone 10 years. When she finished, the room was silent. Then someone stood, then another. And they clapped, not out of pity, but out of awe. One young woman told her, "Your words made me cry. I've never heard anything like them." Alma smiled and whispered, "I waited 60 years to let them out." Now she writes every week. Not to be famous, not to be published, but because she realized something important. It was never too late to give her soul a voice, and neither is it too late for you. Maybe it's not writing for you. Maybe it's gardening or painting or dancing in your kitchen with music from a radio that crackles. Maybe it's learning to forgive someone who hurt you decades ago. Maybe it's writing a letter to someone you never got to say goodbye to. Maybe it's picking up the phone and calling someone whose number you've memorized but never dialed. There is so much life left to feel, to taste, to remember, to create. And yes, maybe your knees hurt. Maybe your memory isn't as sharp. Maybe the world feels louder and faster and harder to keep up with. But none of that means your time is done. It just means your rhythm is different now. Slower, maybe. Softer, certainly, but still sacred. Still worthy. Sometimes the most beautiful music comes from the quietest instruments. Sometimes the most powerful stories come at the very end and leave a mark so deep it echoes long after you're gone. So please, don't let the idea of too late rob you of the years you still have. If your heart is beating, you still have time to love, to grow, to forgive, to become. And that is something most people forget, not because they are weak, but because they've been told that aging means ending. But what if it meant arriving? Arriving at a version of yourself that no longer needs permission. Arriving at the wisdom to say yes when you want to and no when you need to. Arriving at peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. You are not just older now. You are braver. You are wiser. You are finally free enough to choose your joy without apology. And you still can. So don't stop here. Don't shrink. Don't fade. You are not too late. You are right on time. Asterisk if you've made it this far. I want you to take a moment, a real moment, and breathe. Not the quick kind of breath you take between tasks, but the kind that fills your chest. The kind that reminds you you're still here, still breathing, still capable, still becoming. We've walked through 5 mistakes that so many older adults continue to make, not because they are foolish, but because no one ever warned them. Mistakes like staying silent when your heart needs to speak, neglecting your health until pain becomes your companion, living only for others and forgetting yourself, choosing isolation instead of connection, and perhaps most dangerous of all, believing it's too late to change. But now, you know, and that means something important. You're no longer walking forward blindly. You are walking forward with awareness. And that changes everything. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You don't need to make big promises. All you need to do is begin. Start by sitting in the sun for 5 minutes tomorrow and really feeling its warmth. Call one person you haven't spoken to in a while, even if the conversation feels awkward. Tell someone you love them. Write down one dream you still carry, even if it's been buried for decades. Stretch your legs. Eat something nourishing, not because you have to, but because you deserve to feel strong. And most of all, listen to your heart again. It's still speaking. Softly maybe, but it's there, waiting for you. You see, life doesn't end at 60 or 70 or 80. It simply changes shape. It becomes less about speed and more about depth. Less about noise and more about meaning. Less about proving your worth, and more about feeling it. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not because I'm telling you, but because you already knew. You knew it when you felt the ache of silence. You knew it when your body started to whisper. You knew it when loneliness crept in. And you know it now. There is more life to live, more joy to feel, more beauty to create, more love to give, more peace to claim. You haven't missed it. You're right on time. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a softer, wiser, more intentional chapter, one that only you can write. So take the pen and begin again. If this story moved you, share it with someone you care about.